First question for Chief.
Yep, sure thing. Hey, Chief. How excited are you ahead of the start of the season? I know when you first came back, you spoke of sort of the challenges of last season and things like that. But yeah, how's the squad? How's the vibe in the team?
The vibe is very good. We cemented a lot of good pillars moving towards this day, and it's been slow, but I think it's been very effective. I think there's a nice buzz in the group at the moment. I think the players that we recruited, brought in, have given a really nice dimension to the team. We've been conscious about making sure that we fill the age spectrum in terms of having a balance within the squad. I think that's worked really nicely. But where I've been, really happy is with how we've been playing. It's completely different to what we've been doing for the last couple of years. It's a little bit more aligned with who I am as well, which is exciting. And it's nice to coach like this. It's given me a lot of energy, and I think the players have fed off that as well.
And obviously, oh sorry, I pinned myself. Obviously an encouraging final preseason result against the Mariners last weekend. When you look at the draw, Perth, Brisbane, the Mariners, that's the other bottom four teams from last season. I know the Phoenix often starts slow, but how important is it to get a bit of a strong start and build some momentum? And I guess for the fans who watched the team last season to just bring some belief back into the club. 'Cause it feels like, there's a chance here to really start strong and all of a sudden the outlook, looks a lot more promising. Do you see that?
Not really, because I think a lot of our issues are looking too far ahead. I think the focus for our success is to make sure that we focus on what's in front of us for the first game. How do you know how Perth play? How do you know how Brisbane play? How do you know how Mariners play? I think it's a question that's lined in what's happened before, not what's going to happen in the future. So I can't predict that. No one can. So for ourselves to be successful, we need to go game by game, make sure that we respect the opponent, but play our best. And again, the thing is, I'm not expecting to win every game this season. What I'm expecting is to put a front foot forward, play attacking football, and making sure that our fans are entertained. And again, I've said it before, I think for me, the most important thing is that a gauge of our success is everyone wanting to watch us play week in, week out, irrespective of the result. Obviously, I love to win. There's nothing better than winning. I think our fans also deserve a trophy, and that's what I'm here to do. But again, our focus is the now.
Just a final one before I pass on to the others. Have the club given you like a target or an expectation? Like, do you have to finish in the top six to keep your job for next season?
I'm not really worried about my job, if you want to be honest, Phil. This is just like a circus around me. It shouldn't be. It should be around the team. My job is to make sure they finish the highest possibility. The club's expectation is that they also expect the team to play in a certain way, and that's the bargain that I've struck with the club, and I'm going to deliver that.
Cheers.
Hey Chief, Luke here, mate. Hope you're well. Just on Perth, obviously you mentioned don't know the exact way they're going to play this season, but you've obviously got film and from last season. What do you expect from them? Obviously, a really difficult season results wise for them. What are you expecting come Saturday evening?
Yeah, I don't see it that way. I actually see that they've been very competitive in all their friendlies. I think what's let them down is probably their second half performance where they've run out of legs or they've turned over the squad. So against Sydney FC, they were 0-0 at half time. Against Wanderers, they were the same. Then they made significant changes. They're going to be very tough to break down. They've gone to a back five as well. I think as well as Ruler's in his second year. I think he needs time to mature as a coach. I think their ideas are a little bit clearer as well. No different to every other coach that is trying to coach a team this season. So I think the game's going to be very hard.
And another season, another pre-season under the belt for you. What's your, I guess, contrasting seasons for you? Off the back of the last two, what have you learned, I guess, over the course of those last couple of seasons as you enter another new one?
Um, what have I learned? I think the most important thing for a healthy team is a group dynamic and team environment. I think if I've also put it in modern day terms, the vibe, right? And the vibe doesn't necessarily mean that everyone needs to feel good. they need to know which way they're going, and I think that's very, very important. And I think the mentality within this team is that everyone understands that the team is first and which direction we're going, and that I'm going to have to use all the players this season to be successful. So that's one thing I've learned, is making sure we have that refocus. I probably did it unintentionally in the first year without me knowing. Last year, it unraveled probably towards the end of the season when there was nothing to play for. But these are all lessons learned. I said it before, I'm a young coach. I'm also learning as well. But it was a great experience last year to go through. And this season, I feel like I've benefited from that.
And just for Saturday, have you got an 11? And I guess how early in the season or in the preseason did that sort of starting 11 for that first game come into the mind?
Yeah, so I think, like, to be clear, the Australia Cup was a good way for me to cement principles and also give an extended opportunity to the younger players in the team. Also had some other older or senior players that were coming back in with injuries and so on, but it was more to gauge to see where they're at and how they developed. But then once I moved away from the Australia Cup and I started focusing towards the season, I started fleshing out ideas on how to move the team or how to move the team forward. And the starting 11's kind of taken a natural, organic sort of development. And we pretty much stuck to that now for the last 5-6 weeks. And I think what you've seen in the preseason, like, results have compounded because of that in terms of performance. And I thought we were really good for about 50 minutes against Mariners. I thought we actually did really well against Wanderers the game before. Even Sydney, it was a hard game, but I thought we did very well. But that was also because we kept the same group of players playing for larger periods of time.
Hey, Chiefy, hope you're doing well. Just a question around an article this week, just around, you were saying that you felt you lost yourself last season a little bit. I think it was around sort of maybe not giving home truths to players. Can you just talk us through sort of your thinking around that and how that's shaped you as a coach this season?
Good to see you, Ben. I think I probably alluded to it before. I think that sometimes when you get in a mindset, you want to protect players, you want to protect the group, protect the staff. Sometimes what you're doing is actually doing more damage than good. You could call it avoidance. I think it was just more of a thing that I didn't want to hurt the players or make them feel under threat. And in that process, where I lost myself was that was probably the time the group probably needed me the most and to make some bigger calls. Without going into too much, like team selection should always reflect the best starting 11 and the ones that are going to give 100%. And I felt like we weren't at that last year for whatever reason. I had players coming back, and there was a whole host of reasons. And that was a big realization I had at the end of the year when I went back. In actual fact, I felt as though the good that I was trying to do was actually probably more harm and detrimental. And that was some feedback I got from players that are still here, which was good. And then I went back to the old drawing board and try to work out, how do I put this in place now? Like, how do I move forward? So I was very honest with the group from day one. And it's been good. It's been healthy, I think. And I think what we have now is we have buy-in from the players, but they're also very open and very quick to give feedback, which is good. It's something I need.
And just with the style this year, I know that you're trying to play more aggressive and attacking football. Just how do you feel like, because obviously last season, you wouldn't have gone in intending to play the way you did because you want to win more matches, etc. So how is the intention this season and how you want to play different from last season if you can drill down as simply as you can?
Yeah, look, I think the evolution is my first year, there was always talk about, we used to leak goals previously and everyone wanted a tighter defense and so on. And, we went to a more, defensive approach, but also had some nice build-up principles, but it wasn't the focus point of our game. I think last year I tried to change it But because we had such a disruption in pre-season and bringing in a new bunch of players, almost a new starting 11, it was very hard to build that foundation. But what's been great about this long pre-season is that I've been able to flesh out these ideas I wanted to bring in last year. And I feel like, everyone complains about the pre-season. To be fair, it's too short for the amount of ideas I want to cover, So I've been really happy with the progress. In terms of like the style, I've always wanted to be a coach who dominates games with the ball, off the ball, and I think that will come in to this season. Or you'll see a more clearer emphasis on that. How that looks, will be different in games, but the trend so far in all the games has been very positive.
G'day, mate. Kobe here from News Talk ZB. How do your expectations for this season compare to the beginning of last season?
Good question. I don't have expectations, if you want my honest opinion. Even in my first year, everyone wrote us off to be last. My expectation was I wanted to bring identity to the Phoenix in terms of the way we play and how we play. Wanted to give an energy, a style, something that people, enjoy to watch. I think as a group, we all lost focus at the end of that first year when we came back the second year. I think that we thought it was going to be an easy transition into being the same team, but the reality was it was a new squad and a lot more inexperience and just different players coming in. And I'm taking that approach this season as well. I'm game by game. I don't have any expectations. We could lose the first four, play the best football. What does that mean? We could win the first four and play terrible football. What does that mean? My expectation is that we build a good foundation, consistent throughout the year, but we also stick to what our principles are. And that for me is a successful season. So my expectations when I get to round 26, 27, the last game of the season, semi-finals, that we're still playing like that and we're still sticking to those ideas.
Obviously, losing Costa's a big loss to the team. So sort of where do you expect the bulk of your goals to come from this season? Or is it sort of looking to be like you sort of want to spread across a whole bunch of players?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you look at the stats traditionally in the A-League, prior to maybe the last 2 years, consistently you had McLaren that was scoring about 18 to 19 goals plus to be the top team. There was 1 year where he averaged around 22, 25. The thresholds dropped a little bit. If you saw with Milanovic last year, I think it was 15. Even the year before that was 18. But I think what you see is that teams now are scoring more across players than they are with one individual person. I think one of our big problems last season was Costa was the only one scoring really consistently. I think Coles was the second leading scorer. So we brought in players that I think right across the board, players like Carlo Amiento, Rami, Eze up top, and Nikola Milejuznic, that can all give us goals. On top of that, you've got boys like Luke Brooksmith, Gab, Soups, that can also chip in, and I think the way we play this season is that there's going to be opportunities right across the board for a lot of these players. And I think that it doesn't really matter what the top scorer is, as long as there's Paney scores 3 or 4, Benias, Carlos scores 3 or 4, and then we can increase the overall goals.
Scott, just 2 more. Coming into a World Cup year, have you spoken to any of the Kiwi players who are sort of needing to perform this season to make that World Cup squad?
I think me talking to them, Kobe, will be more detrimental than helpful, mate. I think they've already got their own pressures and they're already dealing with that themselves. All I want to do is facilitate, them getting to where they need to be. I think we have genuinely like 3 or 4 players that should be going to the World Cup out of our squad. That's just, on top of the players that we've had over the last couple of years. I'm biased to my players. But I think the surprising thing is there might be 1 or 2 players that no one's talking about now that might sneak in. But, you're talking about boys like Rufo Paney. I don't need to motivate them. They've already, they're working hard in this pre-season. They're very focused. It's nice to see boys like Lucas get an opportunity, Luke Brooksmith, and hoping maybe 1 or 2 more that get into the window.
And then just lastly, facing Sam Sutton and Scott Witten first up, is there any sort of bad blood there? Obviously, jumping ship to Perth.
Not at all. I've got no problems with players moving clubs. It's natural. It's a normal part of life. I'm not going to be here at the club, for the rest of my life. I'm going to be somewhere someday. So I kind of hope when I come back, I'm greeted with open arms.
Cheers.
Hey, Chief, is Tim Payne all good to start on Saturday?
He came in last night, so I think we'll have to assess this morning, see how he is. But I would assume that if everything's all right, he'll be starting.
And you've got quite a few versatile players, Corbin, Lucas Kelly-Field, Matt Sheridan. Where do you see those three playing this season? And with what's that?
On the pitch.
Yeah, obviously, but like what positions?
We'll see.
That's
Chief,
it.
That's it.
Okay.
Chief, just on the players, obviously the ones that are still there from last year, I guess as an outsider looking in, last year goes one of two ways, right? You sort of lose the dressing room, they lose the respect for you or whatever, or it goes the other way and sort of unites you guys and I guess motivates you further going forward. Has that in a way sort of happened, that second option, do you think?
Yeah. I mean, look, I'd love to sit here and tell you the coach's influence is, an important thing. Obviously, it's a factor. But if the players need me to be motivation, whether they play good or bad, there's a problem then. They're professionals. I expect them that they come out, they do their job, irrespective if they like the coach or not. I think being good professionals, they'll come out and do their best job, irrespective. I think it's easy then to just go and say it's the coach, it's not the coach, and so on. I've seen it way too much in football. It's sort of a scapegoat. But I do think that this group is determined, is focused. Irrespective of me, I think there's a lot of players here that have got something to prove and want to do good things for the club and also better their careers. I just feel like I'm going to facilitate that to the best I can. For example, players going to the World Cup, winning a title and so on. I'm just a little part of that process.
Thanks, Matt.
Nice.
Any final questions?
Yeah, sorry, Brendan. I just wanted to ask you about Anaru Cassidy. I know Schwinn is going to be in line for his debut as well, but he's sort of been in and around it for a while, so we know sort of his backstory. Can you just tell us a little bit about Anaru, who could, he might not be in the squad, but I know he's over there. So can you tell us a bit about him after the fire drill?
And yeah, sorry, one sec. Sorry, guys. Wait, I'll try to put it on mute, guys. One sec. All right, we're good.
I hope you've got this recorded, Brenton, for the end of season. I tell you what, it'll be absolute gold. Yeah, Chiefy, if you,
Right, Anaru.
Yeah, Anaru, yeah.
So Anaru was on standby for the under-20 squad to go to the World Cup. So he was unlucky not to travel. But it's turned out to be a really good opportunity for him to come up and train with us, and he's actually impressed quite well. I played him against Olympic in one of the preseason friendlies. He's played in every game so far, either started or come off the bench, and I've been really happy with him. I think he's been...
This is the Chief Warden. This is the Chief Warden. We have investigated and resolved the cause of the alarm, and no further action is required.
Thank you.
This is the Chief Warden. This is the Chief Warden. We have investigated and resolved the cause of the alarm, and no further action is required. Thank you.
All right. There you go, guys. I've lost my train of thought. No, he's done really well for the games, and is a sort of versatile player that can play 6'8" and can also play 10 if need be. Is actually quite intelligent footballer, and they're the players I like, and it's fitted into the group nicely. So it's been a great opportunity for him. I brought him over. We've got 2 players that will be on standby. But I thought he did well enough that he could travel with us and be part of the group.
Can I ask, Chief, sorry, just like how do you find the balance between giving those young guys a go? Because I know like you'll say last season you gave a lot of those guys a go and maybe you didn't want to, or because other guys were injured. But I guess say someone like Schwinn, like he impressed quite a lot at the Under-20 World Cup. And I guess for him, he probably sees that right back spot as a realistic goal to vie for the World Cup, but he's got Tim Payne in front of him. Yeah, how do you just balance giving the young guys who have shown some promise a go, but also, you've brought in some experienced A-League guys as well?
I think for a large part that when it comes to player development, there needs to be a natural hierarchy in the team in order for these young players to be bled effectively. And what I mean by that is if you have a good senior core, good middle-aged core, and the young players are coming through, it's just a natural hierarchy of them trying to come through, maybe 1 or 2 accelerate and jump over that middle group or senior players, because traditionally the senior players are starting players, established players that have been around for a long time, and those middle players are in between and trying to get to that last level. But when you have a skewed team like what we did last season, and we had a lot of these boys come in and probably got an apprenticeship a lot sooner than what in the A-League than what they would have liked, and you're having a bunch of them. What you have is you have a lot of expectation, a lot of pressure on those boys to perform. One, obviously, us doing well the year before was pressure probably a lot more than what they could handle. But in that process, we saw some of those boys, some of them do very well, and some of them probably need a little bit more time. And still, it's crazy. I talk about Gab all the time. Gab's 18. I've had him here for 3 years, and he's still 18, which is like, traditionally that player would come in at 18, 19 and then work his way into the team. So he's got this will be his third year of experience, and I think that it can be detrimental to having a lot of young players playing and not being able to handle that pressure. But I think the way that the team's padded this season, there's a nice sort of balance in the squad, and those players, need to have that competition in order for them to get better, which I think is very, very important. And then again, the thing is I also have to manage the expectations in terms of, just because you're playing doesn't necessarily mean that you merit to be starting. It could, for last year, could have been circumstance, or even if they do well, it's how, if they can bring their consistency into their game, and that's the things that I'm trying to manage. So it's a hard question. Like Schwen, for me, did very well in the World Cup, and I thought Schwen did exceptionally well, and I think if he's patient, he has plenty in front of him. That his opportunity will come. Maybe he probably expect a little bit quicker, but at the same time, he's got to wait. And I think that all good players go through that process, and it's a healthy process.
No, all good. Cool. Cheers, Chief.
Yeah.
All right, we might try and end it there before the next fire alarm.